Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. This is a movie version, like a TV movie version, that is from 1997. It is an hour and 26 minutes long, longer than the original Disney animated feature by 6 minutes or so. It is 100% not the Disney version. It's not. Here they say it's given a thoroughly modern twist, and that is technically code by saying the cast is a lot more diverse than it was in the animated feature. So, yeah, it stars Brandy as Brandy Norwood. She was once just Brandy back in the 90s. She was a pop singer. And but she is the star. She is Cinderella, the Cinder Girl. She of course, everybody knows the story of Cinderella. I don't really need to explain it, right? She's a girl who's living with her stepmother, her evil stepmother. Stepmothers were pretty much all evil back in the day when these stories were made. But then also her stepsisters, who are also just a mess. They're just awful in many cases, but also fantastic at the same time, just because the actresses who played them. And I'll get to that in a minute. But this is the thoroughly modern twist. It's very diverse, and it's culturally, racially, it's just the way it is. And there's no thankfully there's no dialogue that says, oh yeah, by the way, Victor Garber plays the king and Whoopi Goldberg plays the queen, and they have a Filipino son named Christopher, who is the Prince Charming of this tale. And okay, sure, it's just the way it is. It's okay. They don't need to explain it. There's just actors and roles, and it's meant to be fun. This is a film version of what would be a stage play, and you can really tell that it was meant to be a stage play by the way it's put together. But this is really meant to say, hey, you know what? Let's take this stage play. Rodgers and Hammerstein, do you know them from The Sound of Music? You know them from The King and I, South Pacific, and loads of other classics, musicals from stage and from screen over the years. But in this is their version with their songs, their scores, their lyrics. You're not going to get bippity boppity boo. Just be aware of that. You're not going to get any of the stuff that you would hear. There's no intelligent animals helping Cinderella dress for the ball or anything else. There's none of that. Cinderella. No, there's no Gus. There's none of that. It is magical in many ways, and the only magical part of this, of course, is anytime that Whitney Houston steps on the screen, shows up on the screen. And yeah, she's the fairy godmother, and that's, you're going to get the biggest pop star of the 90s, one of them, but possibly one of the most iconic singers of her time, to play the fairy godmother. And it's a big get to do, Whitney Houston doing Rodgers and Hammerstein. Come on. So, but it also kind of, when you're watching this, you're kind of hoping it all builds to what you want to have the Cinderella and the Prince singing together, because that's the iconic couple. But really, you're hoping that there's going to be a big number with Brandy and Whitney Houston, and yeah, it builds to that. And yeah, they do their thing. They do the song. For me, though, I have a special place in my heart for Bernadette Peters, who plays the evil stepmother, because she's just always fantastic. She's been in a lot of classic movies and somehow brings her own feel to it. And I want to say it now. I feel like if I don't say it now, I'm going to forget, and I have to do this. She and the evil stepsisters, and I keep putting quotes around evil because, yeah, they're selfish, but they're not like on the level of Maleficent evil. Not the sneering kind of stepmother we see in the original animated film, who is awful, absolutely, and probably evil. But we also, they're just selfish. And yeah, depending on how far you're willing to go for your selfishness, that can really translate into evil, or you're just an awful person. And in this case, you see her and the way she's raised her other daughters to be just as selfish. And in this case, though, Bernadette Peters and the daughters are just eating the scenery. They're just chewing the scenery, and they are just full on crazy. And they're just wild and weird, and just their presence sort of almost has a chance of overshadowing Brandy and Whitney. It's not in their singing prowess, which is just fine. It's more in just their over-the-top kind of performance, in just being not so much evil as they are just silly. It's like the kind of the classic non-threatening villain that we get in most stories like this. They're threatening just because they're at odds with our hero, but for the most part, they're their own worst enemy. And we see that in Bernadette Peters and each of the women who play her stepdaughters, who are Vianne Cox and Natalie Drezel. Yeah, Natalie Drezel Reed. But I have to mention Bernadette Peters before I move on to Jason Alexander, who, yes, George Costanza is in this. Bernadette Peters, in a later, toward the end of the film, I'm not spoiling anything by telling you the end of the film, when the prince comes around trying to get the glass slipper put on each of the women in the town. Like, seriously. I realize there is no race in this film whatsoever, but you could have really cut down your search by just looking at the girl, looking around. I'm just saying, it's just, you would have really pared down your search of thousands of women and just whittled it down pretty quickly. But I have a feeling maybe the fairy godmother may have put a spell of, unseeing. It's like they could see her, but they couldn't recognize her out of context. I have no idea. I get that way sometimes. I don't recognize people when I see them outside of the place I'm used to seeing them at. I don't know. But I'm going all the way back to Bernadette Peters again. There's a scene towards the end where she even tries on the slipper and it fits barely, and it causes her to they have to pull it off because it's just cutting off her circulation. And at that point, she is without a shoe. Now, they could have just had her in the next, honestly, as they move through the next scene, where they go, oh, where's the girl, the servant girl in the other room? Where is she? They could have just said, oh, off camera, she put her regular shoe back on, but she didn't. And this is where the magic happens with Bernadette Peters. I don't know if it was her decision or the director's decision or what, but as she moves around Jason Alexander silently, she does this hop, this bounce, because she's missing a shoe. And I know that to nobody else that probably means anything else, but it is comedy gold. It is absolutely unnecessary for the scene, but it is perfection. And having Jason Alexander keep a straight face in that sequence, and her keeping a straight face as well, part of me feels like it could have been just ad-libbed. If it was, God bless her. But if it wasn't, and it was scripted, well, still, she pulled it off, flying colors. So, yeah, watch it. She's great. First of all, she's ageless, and she's just, when Jason Alexander he's assisting, he's the assistant to the king and queen and the prince. He kind of organizes everything, and he even gets his big song and dance numbers. Jason Alexander is no stranger to song and dance and physical comedy. Well before he was in Seinfeld, and since. And he, by the way, also was still doing Seinfeld at this time. It might have been just before the second to last in the final season, but he was still George Costanza at this point. But he has a bit more facial hair in this one, just, I guess, to shake things up. Either way, Jason Alexander is also a revelation in this. By the way, this isn't a great movie. I'm going to be very honest with this. It's not a great movie. And even the songs, even though it's Rodgers and Hammerstein, none of them are going to be the kind of thing where I'm just going to be, oh, I'm singing that. I can't get that out of my head. There's none of them hit like that for me. For me. Maybe for you, they do. But, yeah. It's mostly unremarkable, except for small flourishes of acting from the supporting cast, and of course just the vocals. I mean, the singing between Whitney's not going to disappoint, and Brandy together, separate, they're always going to knock it out of the park. It's just the way it is. And the new guy who Paolo Montalban plays the prince, he's great too, but for the most part, a lot of the stuff is by the numbers, musical things. The dancing is great. It's all shot in the Universal Studios backlot, from what I can tell, and inside studios and outside the whole marketplace. I've seen that in tons of TV shows and movies. The only thing that's frustrating to me is it's 1997, and the special effects do not age well. It is, any time that Whitney Houston shows up on screen, you get the impression that she might have only ever appeared on screen with Brandy. Ever. At any point. Because, well, she doesn't have any reason to interact with anybody else. She's a fairy godmother who, deals with Cinderella. But there's a big, moment at the end where, he's found his princess, and they're riding a carriage down the street, and there's throngs of people cheering them on. And in a doorway frame, there's this very flat video game image of Whitney Houston belting out the big song at the end. And it looks so bad. It is so literally bad. I realize they probably didn't have any budget on this. The money probably all went to get Brandy and Whitney Houston, but still. I do want to put a shout out to Victor Garber and Whoopi Goldberg as the king and queen. They have their really funny moments. Whoopi is Whoopi. Whoopi is very Whoopi in her expressions and her comedic timing when it comes to her being the mom who wants to get her son married and is willing to throw a ball to force him to find a girl out of thousands. And yeah, so it's a pretty great cast. It's a pretty fantastic cast for what it is. But I have a feeling that the effects team may have not gotten a great budget to get the work done, and also it was 1997. So you're not exactly pushing a whole lot of CGI, there's not a whole lot of digital effects really in a whole lot of stuff. Let's just say that. Yeah, Jurassic Park was doing stuff back in 1993 that got George Lucas was working on, upgrading the original trilogy, and then eventually doing episode 1 in 99. Yeah, that's, and I'm sorry for mentioning Star Wars again, but it's the touch point for every major advancement in technology through Industrial Light and Magic. I have a feeling it wasn't Industrial Light and Magic who did this. If they did, well, I don't know. But yeah, the effects of the carriage being created, and it feels like they went back 10 years. I'm sorry, guys, gals. Sorry, everybody who did that. It does not age well. But hey, what are you going to do? What the big focus on is the music and the acting. And while the acting isn't tremendously groundbreaking, there is funny to be had in this. So yeah, I say it's not going to probably be up there in your favorite pseudo Disney classics. It's if you're a big fan of the original animated Cinderella, and of course this Cinderella and the animated Cinderella and other versions of modern Cinderella that we've seen over the years are nothing like the original story of Cinderella from way back when. And things are different. Things are just a bit different. But I say check it out if you're a fan of these artists and you want to hear these songs. I just really appreciate that. For me, I really appreciate the comedy. Jason Alexander, Bernadette Peters, Whoopi Goldberg, and Victor Garber to a certain degree. They don't have a lot of scenes, but of course Whoopi gets a song. I think Victor Garber can sing too. I don't remember him getting any big numbers, any big moments, but it's a fun diversion for an hour and a half, I guess. You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I somehow missed out in life because I didn't see this. It's okay. It's okay. If you love the original, try not to compare the two. You already know the story, and I have a feeling the structure of the story owes a lot more to the Disney original than, say, any other version of Cinderella, of the Cinder Girls. But yeah, the comedy of the stepsisters and the stepmother elevates this. So yeah. The rest is all about dreams and possibilities and everything else, and that's very sweet, but it's yeah. When you don't have magical animals and everything else running around helping you get dressed, you have to compensate with other stuff. So, and remember, this is also, like I said, it is a stage performance put into a 4:3 aspect ratio television movie. It's not shot. It's not fully. It owes its look and feel to a stage performance rather than shot in a way that it would be an original movie. So, because we have another Cinderella movie that I think we've watched already, that's been made since, based on the original animated film, but that's a whole other thing. So, yeah. All right, let's pick the last, I think. I gotta check. But the last item of this quarter before we reset the list. 266. Oh, really? Wait, is this just... Okay. I'm already on the page. It's okay, it's 2 down from there. So we had 264, now it's 266. It's a series, and I don't know what it is, but we're going to watch it. It is Saruna's Magic. Yeah. Saruna's Magic. We'll watch an episode probably and see where it goes. I'll be back with that tomorrow. Saruna's Magic on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that. Bye.